Good evening, everyone. Here from north of the Arctic Circle, about 70 degrees north. Maybe it's my aspiration one day to do a broadcast from the North Pole. I have a feeling that one would be able to be very much in the head center of our particular globe lord or chain lord or something. It must be pretty intense. But right now, 70 north latitude seems to be about the limit. And actually not far from here, about 160 kilometers, is the farthest north university in the world, in Norway. So as a young person, I always wanted to go north, and I guess that dream has been fulfilled. Something about that suggests the entry into what's called the land of light. Here in Finland, they call it Päivälä. It was the land where the magicians dwelled. It's a very magical kind of society, and their myths are full of magic. But the idea was it was the land of eternal day. Of course, maybe it wasn't mentioned. It was also eternal night. When you study the secret doctrine carefully, there's some amazing things. The tipping of our pole 3.5 times already in the duration of the planetary history, and that means that there was a time when the pole itself was tipped towards the what we now call the ecliptic or the equator, close enough. That tipping of the pole is very interesting, and it's in the Egyptian records, and the historian Herodotus talked with the ancient priests, and they knew all about this. So there are things that have happened with respect to the history of the earth that we have very little current idea about, but it does tell us about the pole changes that Master DK tells us are on the way, are coming, and these pole changes will bring access to the new energies, to a hidden constellation behind Polaris, which is associated with Aquarius, and all that energy will be pouring into Shambhala. So some very powerful things are on their way, and if we know how to function properly, they should help us dissipate the fogs and obstructions and veils which prevent us from seeing reality. Let's begin with the great invocation together. Wherever you are, just have yourself on self-mute, but you can say it out loud as we go along, and we'll close with the sacred word. It's always good, to sound the great invocation every day. In your triangles work, or, if you're not involved with the triangles, and I hope you are, sound it anyway, maybe upon rising and at noon and also in the evening, or at least once a day somehow. Okay, so from the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Well, this is our method. The most powerful instrument we have, this invocation stored for long in Shambhala and only released in 1945 when the Christ made another great decision to return in physical form. That sacrifice basically released the great invocation for our use. Some amazing things going on. We have hardly any idea, but one day we will. We were talking last time about the real and the aspirational forms, which are often mistaken for that which is real. And even one day those high forms which allow for the elevation of the human being, you can ascend by your aspirations. Even one day they have to be dissipated. In chapter 10 of the Rays and the Initiations, he gives us certain veils that are the veils of Maya, as they are called, on the etheric plane, and he calls them by interesting names. The first is let's see if I have this correctly, the veil of impulsion, something like that. It's chaotic. Then the veil of distortion, relating to the emotional plane, and the veil of separation, obviously related to the lower mental plane, and then finally the veil of aspiration of all things. And aspiration is a good thing, but it can hide the real, just the way the sixth ray so often hides what the second ray can reveal. So we must triumphantly pass the second initiation before the major glamours, or the more common glamours with which we might be unknowingly associated, can be dissipated. The trouble with glamour is it affects us and we don't know it. It oftentimes takes others to point out that against which we heartily protest because we think that it can't be so. DK says that every disciple has one overwhelming, he doesn't use that word exactly, but it's a very powerful blind spot, and there our glamours and illusions will be found. And I think when we find ourselves to be in a very reactive space, responding emotionally with irritation or whatever in the emotional vehicle, without even thinking, then I think we have the indication that somewhere there lurking is a glamour that we have to deal with. Also, our strengths hide our weaknesses. So it's often, paradoxically, in the place where we feel ourselves to be the strongest, that some weakness is hidden. And especially if we're proud of that particular strength, I can do this, I can do that, and somewhere in there is some kind of egotism which is distorting the truth. Anyway, so let's go on here. We stopped at this point on page 201. I'm going to be jumping all over the book here, but right now we're dealing with the technique of light, and even though we're working with group and international or global glamours, world glamours, there is a section coming up on dealing with individual glamour, which we would neglect at our peril. We would not be fit somehow to work on the larger scale, unless we deal with our own difficulties, even if they are unknown to us, which made, the initiate disciple Roberto Assagioli. So the story goes, he was FCD in the Dynabooks, and he is said to have said as he was passing on, make sure they do their personal work. Make sure they do their personal work. And the they is, of course, we. So let us make sure we do our personal work as well as the wider work and fit ourselves accordingly. So anyway, the Tibetan going on here, it's a short section relatively, and then we'll have a chance for some questions or, questions that you may have been thinking about from before. They don't necessarily have to relate exactly to what we're discussing. Things that you want to comment on or question, and then we'll go into our meditation. I may, this process may be a little shorter tonight. I have a lot of responsibilities at the moment, and so Tibetan is always advising us to organize for speed. And he says that the major sin of the average initiate is sloth. You've all seen the sloths hanging from the trees, and they don't move really fast. So, and he's even talking about initiates. So he says, make sure you organize for speed. And each one of us has to figure out what that really means in our life. So anyway, he goes on and says, it will be apparent to you, therefore, that groups working consciously at the service of dissipating glamour will have the following characteristics. Okay, so just, match them against your own evaluation. They will be composed of sixth-ray aspirants and disciples, aided by second-ray spiritual workers. And in this particular case, the category of spiritual worker, a steady, mentally focused, persistent individual is higher, apparently, than that of aspirants or even of disciples in the earlier stages. A true spiritual worker maybe is an unusual thing, whereas a striving aspirant or even a well-intended disciple may be occurring more commonly before becoming a true spiritual worker. So from the sixth ray to the second ray, the job is finished by those with that broad understanding of the second ray. They will be formed, let's say the groups, they will be formed of those who, these groups, and we are at the moment such a group, those who are learning or have learnt to dissipate their own individual glamours and can bring understanding to the task. It's not just a question of repeating a formula. There has to be a real understanding of how certain emotional, mental tendencies in our life lead us away from reality. So that's really where the second ray comes in. It is the ray of loving understanding, and it brings to most life situations less zeal and more understanding than the sixth ray normally does. So these groups are formed of those who are dissipating their own individual glamour, so let us seek to be aware of what they might be. We'll oftentimes be very surprised, and we will protest, just as DK once, in a bit of personal history, protested mightily when it was probably Master KH who told him that he was pretty keen upon himself and not upon the master that he thought he was keen upon. Anyway, things get reversed on the astral plane. Okay, the groups are focused upon the mental plane. That's where the fifth ray, Venus, and the Ajna Center and our beam of light all come in, and have therefore some measure of mental illumination. In other words, on the way to the second initiation. Spiritual intelligence and mental illumination are the two great requirements. He doesn't say that they are requirements for all the rays. You get the idea that they kind of are, but obviously certain rays will emphasize spiritual intelligence and mental illumination more than others. So anyway, these groups are mastering the technique of light, which we are studying right now. These groups are aware of the nature of the glamour, which they are attempting to dissipate, and can use the illumined mind as a searchlight. In other words, we really have to understand how this particular malfunction on the astral plane or in the kama-manasic body of humanity is affecting humanity adversely. So we have to know a lot about what we're trying to dissipate, not just kind of name it and dissipate it. It's a question of understanding the ramifications of what we are seeking to dissipate. In other words, how this particular glamour that we're working on is working adversely in the world in a manner contrary to the divine plan and preventing the divine plan from really appearing. Okay, number 3. They will count among their numbers those who, occultly speaking, have the following powers in process of rapid development. You know, he's not looking for perfection here, is he? Otherwise, he wouldn't have people like ourselves to work with. So, but at least we're in the process of development. So, the groups will count among them those who have these powers. The power not only to recognize glamour for what it is, but to discriminate between the various and many types of glamour, which Master DK says their name is legion. It's a biblical phrase, and it just means, like countless. Although, some of our earlier work, what we did here is we went on and we discriminated via the 7 ray types and the kinds of distortions which were found in relation to those types. So at least we studied some of the ray glamours, but he says that's just the very beginning. Okay, they will have also the power to appropriate the light. It's obviously the light of the soul is very important here, and mental light, absorbing it into themselves as personalities, and then consciously and scientifically, here's where the 5th ray comes in, scientifically project it into the world of glamour, the larger astral plane. We're not so much focusing right now on our own astral body as we are out onto the astral plane, and when we make some headway there, our own glamours are dissipated as well as the larger picture. So you help yourself, you help the whole, you help the whole, you help yourself. The masters, the higher initiates, and the world disciples do this alone, if need be. Maybe they work in groups too, and require not the protection of the group or the aid of the light of the group members. And he's really hinting very strongly that we do need that kind of protection. And, so even if you're doing this by yourself, you're not really having to do it by yourself if you invoke the presence of the group. And you imagine the solidarity of the group working with you. The imagination is very powerful to evoke the presence of your co-workers. Okay, so when you're doing this, you don't go it alone. Even when you're working on your own individual glamours, you can think of the power of the group assisting you. Okay, we're talking about these powers that are developing in the members of these groups. The next is the power to use the light not only through absorption and projection, but also by a conscious use of the will, carrying energy upon the beam of projected light. Will energy. Will is relentless. Will accomplish that which is intended. Will is ultimately, the will to good ultimately is irresistible. So this is not just a sort of a feckless kind of casual projection. This is an empowered projection, and we have to make very sure we touch the will energy through the sacrifice petals, the synthesis will petal, the jewel in the lotus, the various aspects of the spiritual triad, and especially through Atma, which is the source of our spiritual will, and if we can, of course, the monadic presence. There's a whole line of will that we're getting involved in this work. This beam, thus projected, has a twofold use. Okay. It may be an imaginary thing, but it's a real thing in another sense. It works expulsively, throws things out, and dynamically. It has great energy. Much as a strong wind blows away or dissipates a dense fog, or as the rays of the sun dry up and absorb the mist. Now, those are two images you may want to have in mind when you're thinking about the astral plane and its distortions, and its glamours, and its gray fogs and clouds and all that. This idea of the strong wind and the rays of the sun. They are beautiful images, and I think they work very, very well when we're trying to visualize the dissipation of the glamour. It acts also as a beam along which, this is really interesting, it acts also as a beam along which that which is new and a part of the divine intention can enter. It's like the antikarana in a way. It's a two-way street. So the beam is expulsive and dissipating, but it also brings in the new from above. The new ideas and desired ideals can come in on the beam, and they can replace, can't they, what the conditions that are usually there. Conditions are not archetypes. Conditions are what they are. It's like the contrast between Uranus, the archetype, and Saturn, how things are. So the new ideas and desired ideals can come in on the beam, just as the beam directs and brings in the airplanes to a desired landing place. Of course, this was written a long time ago, but it is still very true. So this beam that we imagine has multiple uses. Now, actually, that's really all I'm going to discuss per se tonight. It's our night anyway, and so I'll just have to remember that this will be the end of. I forget which number we're on. I don't know. Is this number 14? Someone can correct me. And by the way, today is the anniversary of the founding of the Seven Ray Institute 31 years ago, or at least this was the day it was made official. So it always has a Virgo quality to it. And interestingly enough, the University of the Seven Rays has a strong Leo aspect to it. So we have the two signs of the Sphinx with those two organizations. Kind of interesting. So remember, when you're asking questions or when you are making a proposal to mention something, it certainly can be on what we've just discussed here, absolutely, or it can be on something that you've been thinking about in relation to our subject over the last week. It's an amazing subject, and it kept, it kept DK's group going for 8 or 9 years before he reformulated everything as the reorganized seed group of 24. So, obviously this little book, Glamour, a World Problem, has loads in it, and, if we're wise, we will study it properly. What I'm going to try to do here is bring a few of these things a little. No, I guess I have to leave it the way it is. So they are separate from each other. Okay, so now we're reaching that point in our program where you can bring up anything that is of interest to you in this field, or something about which I have just expanded a little bit. And as I said, we may be a little bit abbreviated tonight due to various circumstances. And then we'll get on to our meditation. So looking for your either your comments, your questions, your hands, whatever, and you're most welcome to speak or to write, whatever. I certainly don't, have all the answers, but together we can think things through, and that's largely what this battle with glamour is all about. People who can really use that fifth ray in the Ajna Center to think things through are well along the line of dissipating the usual distortions that govern human behavior. So any thoughts at this point, or either whether taken from before, what you've been thinking about, or questions in general, or our particular subject for the evening? Basically, what we've done here is we've talked about who it is who are members of these groups, what ray they're on, what they have to do in their own nature, and the various powers of a psychological, spiritual nature which are developing in their life in order to help them become workers in this field. Okay. Anybody? It's a daunting subject, I know, but you can be brave. It's no problem. Never hurts to be brave, even if one is stupidly brave at first, as I've often been. But we learn by questing and venturing, inquiring the way. Remember, the very first thing. Okay, do we have something here? Tuija, did you have something? Nicolaus has something. Okay, hold on. Okay, oh, good. Thank you. My wife is here in the same room. We're trying not to compete with each other when it comes to how the sound goes forth. But okay, Nick, go ahead. Got you unmuted. Go ahead, Nick.
It was of some concern, some members of our group. This restriction to second and sixth ray of the personnel for the appropriate group for the dissipation of glamour.
Mm-hmm.
And some thought that that was acting as a kind of, let's say, prohibition for them to get involved to this effort and this in the application of this technique. So, and until now, it is not totally cleared up, the whole issue, Many keep going having this kind of concern. As well, others who have similar concerns when they are involved in esoteric healing, for instance. They are thinking that also there is some restriction to the ray equipment needed for this kind of service, so they are not involved in that, and so on, so on, so on.
Okay, I do understand. Yeah, I mean, look, he's just talking about the propensity, the majority. I have the list of the people who were involved in his glamour group, and every one of them had a powerful sixth ray. So it's like, if you make the condition, you're responsible for taking care of it later, and these are workers on the astral plane. The second group, the observers, trained observers, the sixth group, the New World Religion group, and to a certain extent the psychology group, they have all of the same chakras involved in doing this particular work. But let us not forget the importance of the fifth ray, which he's constantly somehow talking about. In other words, it is the great supportive ray, and without that, I have a feeling that second and sixth ray workers would be less powerful without the ability to use the fifth ray, the Ajna Center, and a particular beam of light. And also, I'll tell you what, if a person has a real yearning to be part of such a thing, I wouldn't let their present ray hypothesis get in the way. So often we are incorrect about what our rays may be. It was so interesting, the Tibetan had everybody who joined his groups, they wrote some application. And their ideas of their rays were like often nowhere near what the Tibetan eventually told them their rays were. So I would not let a present hypothesis that a student may have get in the way if they really would want to work in this manner. Now I also think that the first ray in its destructive mode has a lot to do with this kind of work. He seems to talk about that and dissipation, destruction, all that kind of thing. The law of repulse is all about dissipation, all about scattering things. The two rays which seem to generate the most glamour, at least in my opinion, are the sixth ray and the third ray when taken together. And that's why DK said it's kind of an unflattering thing. He said he was talking to one of his disciples. He says, well, and this makes you such a very poor psychologist. He had a very strong combination of third and sixth ray. But now I want to say one other thing, that when you work with Master DK and you're really dedicated to his work, and you adhere to it and you practice it and all the rest, it's almost a sure indication that either your soul ray or your monadic ray is on the second ray. And therefore, the real readers of his books, the ones that stick with it, they probably do have that second ray somewhere that qualifies them according to what he has said to be a kind of worker in this field. So I wouldn't let people get downtrodden about it. If they really want to do it, let them do it. And not look for superficial reasons why they can't do it because their present ray hypothesis is not confirming what DK said, And that's my view, Nick. If you want to do it, do it. That's what I would say. And then later we may discover that our rays actually really are supporting the whole process. Anything else there, Nick? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. Or a statement. Statement and of a condition. Anybody else have something that you would like to? Okay, we have something. We have some kind of, yeah. Go ahead, Brett, is that you?
We have a couple of written questions.
Okay, good. And you told me that if I have the questions checked. Okay. Yes, go ahead. And I am concerned, is this it? About North Korea?
Yes.
I'm concerned with the recent bomb explosion by North Korea, very disturbing. Yeah, okay, to the world in general. Well, we're going to see, remember, these are the days, Tanya, of Vulcan and Pluto. Before the reappearance of the Christ, Vulcan and Pluto, and you could put those two together when you talk about atomic energy plus Uranus, are going to emerge. The destructive aspects and the purifying aspects. And, all I can say is that we must do our best to spread goodwill, harmony, general unity, subjectively in the world. And we cannot exactly attack that energy that is manifesting in such a paranoiac, isolative, and generally inconsiderate attitude to the world community. But if we strengthen the whole world energy situation with respect to humanity's unity, I think these things will be taken care of. Also, circumstances, let's see, this is also from Tanya, it looks like. Oh, no, this is from Debo, Oladele. And maybe, Debo, you're related to bio, and if so, I hope all is well, thinking of bio all the time and with the best energy and thoughts. Circumstances place some aspirants or disciples in a situation where birth, day, and time is not clearly recorded. Yeah, okay. What is the way in working out their ray approximation? Okay, this is a very important question, but look, first of all, if you're very, very meticulous and you cooperate with a good astrologer, and I know a number of them, and you give them a very good list of your date of birth and all the events that have occurred in your life as close to the time they did occur, they will probably be able, depending upon their skill, to work out a pretty close chart for you. But now there's a deeper issue involved here. And the implication is that you go and look at your chart to figure out your rays. Now, DK said exactly the opposite to that. Go into the Scorpio chapter, right around page 222 or 223, and he'll tell you precisely Find the personality ray by the person's behavior, then interpret the chart. Find the soul ray according to the person's behavior, and then interpret the chart. At least you'll be able to have a noon chart, or a chart that is for the day itself in most cases. Most people know their birth day. And then as you get closer to having an accurate rising sign, plus being sure of the personality ray and the soul ray, reasonably sure, by observing them, by, studying their life, then a much more effective chart will be able to be set up. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting here kind of, going off the top of my head, which what I should really do is let's see if I can do this, get rid of that, and let's say, I think this is 223 or something like that. Oh, it's right here. Here it is. Okay. All right. It's right here on page 200 and whatever. Get the 222. And so let me, go straight to the boss here, who says it the right way. This brings me to 2 points about which I would like to speak a word. In dealing with the horoscope of the personality and with the average non-aspiring man, the astrologer should endeavor to discover the personality ray from a study of character, of physical indications, and of emotional qualities of the type of mind and the nature of the environment. He will then be able to lay out a far more useful chart with the orthodox planets ruling the life. So see, the ray comes first. The ray determination comes first, and not the astrology. In the case of the horoscope of a disciple, he should do the same, endeavoring to discover the ray of the soul. The soul ray only sets its mark and emphasis and emphasizes its quality and nature in the case of advanced people. And when that emerges clearly, the man is obviously a disciple, and the esoteric planets will then govern his chart, having determined the ray of the man, undergoing tests in Scorpio. This is the Scorpio chapter. The astrologer can then place the other rays in relation to him and his probable experience. So again, the ray is first, the other rays, and then the astrological chart following. So you're not in a position of real limitation if you don't know the exact time of birth, although, like I said, most astrologers will be in a position to help you with that if you work patiently, accurately, and the astrologer has enough skill and the person has enough honesty, and it should be able to be determined. Don't forget, it's also how you look. Your physical appearance will oftentimes tell you a whole lot about the time that you are born. So it's just a question of patient pursuit of this possibility of knowing the exact time of birth. Okay, so, right. Now, geez, Brett, I'm trying to get back there to what's called, oh yeah, there it is. I guess I've covered those questions. Are there other questions or comments, verbal or otherwise, that you would like to make before we begin our meditation? Okay, remember, we're on a, I see hands, okay. Okay, so let's see, so now this is Debo, and then would you like to say something, Debo?
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
This is Debo.
Debo?
Yeah,
Hi.
this is Debo.
Hi.
Yeah, you are right. Bayo is my brother. It's my kid brother.
Okay.
And, yeah. So it's, all is well. You know that.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. It's a great problem for some of us.
Yes.
The parents do not chat.
Okay, I lost you there a little bit.
Not because of their ineptitude, but because of the opportunity. Yeah, the opportunity presented to them. Most of them were not lettered. in our normal way, so we could
not a
get
hospital.
those dates.
Yeah.
Some were not even born in the hospital.
Yes,
Sometimes
exactly.
we are born in the home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Understood.
that's,
Even at approximate time, even like it was day,
okay.
it was night, it was before noon, it was after. Even you start there. You just start there,
Okay.
and then you make a very good list of the important events of your life. Certain, example, relationships, when I started a relationship, when I ended a relationship, when I started a job, when I lost a job, when I became sick, when I moved. These are very concrete things, but they do work. They do work. So this is, look, let me relate this to our subject. Our subject is glamour. And I just want to say this, that an astrological chart helps us know ourselves better. Okay? So the more we know ourselves, the less we will fall victim to glamour. So astrology, naturally, everything relates to everything else. We all know that. So obviously, to have a really, really good chart and a good ray hypothesis is a big help in knowing what our positive points are and what our tendencies towards glamour may be. So nice to talk to you, Debo. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. A senior colleague, a senior disciple once told me that it's an opportunity not to know your birth. And after it off, but I really don't know.
I'll tell you what you do. You mail me, and I'll try to hook you up with some kind of astrologer, and you can work with them and see what the progress may be. I know some good astrologers, and they can work with you over a period of weeks or months, and things will get closer. Okay? I know Bio also needs his birth time. Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. Nice to talk to you.
So I don't want to make it personal. Yeah, I don't want to make it personal, but it's so crucial from the study of the work.
Yes.
That I know that we probably will be able to do better.
Yes.
If we have all those information.
Exactly. Yeah. So birthday.
So thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll
work on that. We'll work on that. Okay. We'll work on that. You'll get closer. Okay. Okay, Debo. Nice to talk to you. Bye-bye. Okay. Anything else? Anything else here before we start on our meditation? Okay.
We have another written question.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's a long one, huh? Let's see. Or maybe it's not so long. Maybe I'm just looking at... it's from Jan. Okay. Okay, I am shy to ask this, but I'm sure it is covered in the writing someplace. So, shows my lack of study in finding my rays. Well, maybe, maybe not. I've used my intuition to some extent in this, but I'm sure my glamours interfere. And look, when you're searching for your rays, which are very important in helping to combat your glamours, reasoning, observation, simply factual examination. I'm using fifth-ray words of the life are so important. The intuition can speak after the mind has done its work. Like there's a story about the shoemaker and the elves, and the shoemaker learned that he could lay out all the different parts of the shoe, and then at night, somehow, the next morning, the shoe would be completely together. He didn't know how it happened. And then he found out later that at night, little elves were coming to work upon the assembled materials and we're putting them together into the completed shoe. It's often that way when we do the work of all the parts and pieces in a fifth-ray way, examine how they all fit together, and then just leave it, or lift it up to the intuition, or even go to sleep on it. Sometimes the intuition will put all that together for us. So at this time, I feel you say like it would be helpful in the work. I don't have the astrological knowledge to make any definite progress with this either, but have been studying my chart to further understand. Are there sources to work with this through the Mori Federation? There certainly are, and thank you. Look, I don't know, Jan, maybe I'm sorry, I'm not aware of necessarily every student who has joined the Mori Federation, but if you were a student of the Mori Federation, there's an intensive attention to exactly this thing and your chart and its interpretation and all that. Failing that, there's some excellent astrologers in the Mori Federation, really, really good esoteric astrologers. And I can put you in touch with one or more of them if you would like to do some work with them. I myself am not right now taking personal charts because of other responsibilities, but I can put you in touch with those who can be of assistance. So there's no place in the books that's going to tell you exactly how to interpret your chart, but there are wonderful compilations. Probably I have a bunch of material on the Makara website about the planets and the signs and other types of interpretation, and we have compilations in our Ageless Wisdom compilation group, which are about the nature of astrology. So by an overall study of that material ongoingly, you will come closer to interpreting your chart. And also, if you really want to work directly with a esoteric astrologer, I can certainly recommend some fine esoteric astrologers. So let me know if that's how you'd like to go on that, okay? Okay. All right, well, maybe we can go on now to our meditation. If there's Brett, are we clear, or?
We're clear.
We're clear for the moment. Okay, very good. Okay, friends, okay. Let's do our meditation. Remember, we are, we're getting better and better at this all the time. And we're learning how to work with the group, and in the protected mode. We have to be careful. Glamour is so insidious. Today I found myself just overcome by the glamour of self-pity. Well, it lasted about 2 hours, and then I emerged and I said, oh my goodness, be careful, because when you're working with this kind of stuff, it can find your most vulnerable place, and when you're on the second ray, self-pity is often a difficult one, as probably a number of us know. Very insidious, and it seems like reality. But when it lifts, you know it's not reality. That's the contrast. You don't see the scales on your eyes, but because they're so clear, when they fall away, suddenly you see anew. So that's the key. Okay, let's work together. I'm just going to pause here for a moment. Tuija, have they been taking care of the men? Did you pay them? You've got to make sure they don't go away without being paid. So in the beginning here, we cannot really name the group members. In a group of 9 we could do this, but we'll have some moments of silence as we think about the fellow souls, our brother and sister souls here, who are united in this particular work together. So a little silence. Of course, when you're doing this yourself, you follow the directions for the time allowed. And there is much power in silence, we know, so it's very cohesive, and it brings the group together, welding it finally into one very effective instrument. And then we use the protective formula, and we'll make the sign of the cross as we do this. Now you know that is done forehead, center of the chest, left eye, right eye. This particular method that DK suggests. Together we say, as a soul I work in light, and darkness cannot touch me. I take my stand within the light. I work, and from that point I never move. Then we, as is now customary to us, we raise the light of matter into the mental vehicle, and there it encounters the light of mind. And we come en rapport with soul light. We recognize that because we have practiced alignment so much we can touch that point of tension we call the soul, and visualize the soul light descending also onto the mental plane in our mental body. And a triple light is formed. The two lesser lights, the one breathed up from below, the one upon the plane of mind, and the one invoked from above. And then, having done this in our imagination, and when you do it yourself, of course, you can take as long or short as you like. We say together, followed by the sacred word, the light is one, and in that light shall we see light. This is the light that turns the darkness into day. And then we enter the stage of the formula, and the group says together, holding the visualization of the triple light which is now one, and visualizing the group searchlight turning upon the astral plane, we say, radiance are we and power. We stand forever with our hands stretched out, linking the heavens and the earth, the inner world of meaning and the subtle world of glamour. We reach into the light and bring it down to meet the need. We reach into the silent place and bring from thence the gift of understanding. Thus with the light we work and turn the darkness into day. And of course, try to memorize these group statements. It will make them more by heart, more coherent, more powerful. The light of day is the light of all human monads, focused on the Buddhic plane and coming under the influence of the glamour busting sign Scorpio. So now a pause comes and we invoke the spiritual will from the Atmic plane. Really from the monad, but then from Atma, where the plan is formed, down into the jewel in the lotus, into the synthesis will petal, into the sacrifice petals, into the head center on the astral plane, and then the head center on the etheric plane. Spiritual will descends. And visualizing this, we say, with power upon its beam, the light is focused on the goal. That goal, we know, is the dissipation of the glamour of hatred and separativeness. So now we utter the words of power to deal with the glamour of hatred and its related glamour separativeness. And we visualize this work going on as we utter these words of power with the will-reinforced group beam doing its work on the astral plane. The power of our united light prevents the appearance of the glamour of hatred and separativeness. The power of our united light negates the quality of the glamour from affecting humanity. The power of our united light destroys the life behind the glamour. And with these 3 words of power in mind, repeating them as often as necessary to yourself, we visualize our beam of light penetrating into the glamour and producing its weakening and dissipation. We will give 5 minutes of silence and intensity of purpose to this work, seeing this work going forward. I'll bring it all a little more under the eye. 5 minutes of silence, and I'll also turn off any background sound. So the 5 minutes work here. We penetrate the glamour, it is weakening, it is dissipating, and remember those images, the wind and the sun. Glamour is so much like the foggy, cloudy weather which hides the sun. The wind comes, disperses the clouds, the fogs, the glamour is dried up by the sun. The wind and the sun, two magnificent images to replace the fogs of glamour. And then together we withdraw our beam from the astral plane, our group beam, and refocus upon the mental plane, and imaginatively we shut off the searchlight. So working every day, at least for a short time, on the individual glamours and weekly on the world glamours, or if you wish to invoke the group and work on them using the protective formulas, but with the group you can do that. And we will sound 3 ohms as if we see all the members of this group who have been working with us sounding the final ohm, one for each of the 3 vehicles. I realize, friends, that in the process here I may have given way to a third-ray glamour, the glamour of multitasking. Or sometimes he calls it the glamour of busyness. Sometimes events coincide and there's no way that one can do anything but try to handle all of them at the same time. So if you found me interrupting the meditation to announce that something had to be done here, then quickly going back to the meditation, please forgive me for that. We just have to observe ourselves and see what our tendencies might be. Well, you know, this is all part of our Ask program. Ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. It's a program about invocation of the higher energies to replace the conditions that presently exist. So tomorrow night at 8 p.m. we'll continue the work in the destiny of the nations. Soon we will resume the invocation of the soul of particular nations. Right now our circumstances don't allow that, but we can make headway working in that marvelous book, The Destiny of the Nations. And I'm always amazed every time I read that. That was written after 1945, pretty much. It was one of the later books written, and it was meant, I believe, for the organization of the political group, which never really totally, or at least it was related to that, never totally got off the ground. But anyway, we'll do that, and then on Sunday we'll have the meditation for the attraction of money for hierarchical purposes. This is our 5-fold meditation period every week, and then we have the Virgo full moon coming up before long, and we will have both a pre-full moon Virgo webinar, and we will have the broadcast that Tuija does with music and images on the Virgo process, and then I'll also at some point be broadcasting the Virgo solar fire ritual, oratorio, meditation, whatever you want to call it. It's a combination of all these things. And I will let you know when that will be and send the link to you. It'll be an opportunity to think, to meditate, to have the aesthetic experience and all that all together. So I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening. And let us be observant. We are practicing as members of the trained observers. You know, group number 2, having so much of the 2nd and 6th ray in it, but always the head center too. All these groups have the head center too, and there is where the synthesis comes in of all the rays, and there's where the first ray comes in a powerful manner for every one of these groups, carrying forward the purpose that the plan represents. So, good night, everybody. Good day, good evening, whatever it is for you, and thank you for attending. We'll be in process with you a little later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.